Alright, I'm gonna level with y'all. This deck is really fun, it's really good, and it's able to both open up and make good boards and break boards at the same time. It's super fun, super amazing, and I just really want to share it with y'all. So let's get right into it. Just a quick note before we get started, due to the fact that these cards are still OCG only, and while we do now have an idea on what they're going to be called here in the TCG, and that is Swordsoul, I'm still going to be kind of combining and Frankensteining their two names. However, I feel like the first part of their name, that's going to stay universal no matter where it goes, so we're just going to shorthand call them by that. And to start that off, we have Moyi here. Moyi is a water level 4 worm non-tuner that, when you normal or special summon this card, you reveal a Swordsoul card or one worm monster in your hand, special summon a token that's also same type attribute, but it is a tuner and it's also level 4, and you cannot special summon from the extra deck except synchro monsters while that token is on the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can draw one card. You can only use each effect once per turn, of course. So this is your main play starter, and it's one of the best cards to open up because you normal summon it, reveal a card, spawn a token, then you go into the archetypal level 8 that I'll show you later. And then you get a draw, and then you also get whatever beneficial effect that the level 8 synchro has. Additionally, it provides chain blocking to some level 8 synchro effects, so such as if you were to make Baxia, Brightness of the Xiangjian, you could chainlink one Baxia, chainlink to this thing, and then boom, block the chain. They can't do any shenanigans against you. Like use an Omni Negate or some kind of like Boral or Apollosa or something like that. And by the way, just to get this out of the way, all the cards that generate tokens in this archetype all have the same restrictions, so I'm not going to repeat that every single time. Next up we have Tenyi, who can banish a Swordsoul or a worm monster from your graveyard, special summon a token, and then when this card is used as synchro material, you could dump a Swordsoul or a worm monster from your deck to the grave. These effects are both, of course, once per turn. So this guy is also very good because 1, it counts as a second attribute for Baxia's spin effect, and 2, the ability to dump certain cards into the graveyards is very beneficial for the deck. Ideally, you want to be dumping the trap card, which we're going to get into a little later. However, in certain cases, sometimes you just need to dump, say, one of the Tenyis, or you have a way to recycle one of the Swordsoul cards, so you would just want to dump one of those. It's a pretty good card, pretty flexible, provides the same chain blocking, so it's another great card. Absolutely run it. I am personally in my build running 2, however 3 is perfectly acceptable. I just really had to shave space for hand traps in my build. After that, we have Long Yuan, the Swordsoul Tactician, and you can discard one other Swordsoul card or worm monster, special summon this card, then special summon a token, and if this card is used as synchro material and is in the graveyard, you could do 1200 points of damage to your opponent. You could only use each effect once per turn. So first off, this is actually specifically designed to put you into easy OTK range for your opponent as long as you make a level 10 and a level 8 and maybe at least one other body on board. But beyond that point, it's another fantastic card. It is one of the bread and butter cards. It gets you into your level 10 synchro pool, and the level 10 synchro pool for this deck is really good. Like, I'll spoil it right now. The big one is Baroness de Fleur, and Baroness is an Omni Negate, granted it only works once, and it's a pop, and it's so good for pushing through boards or to make yourself Nibiru proof. This guy is absolutely wonderful. If you have any of the level 4s, you usually just want to search him off the search spell, and honestly, I have all good things to say about this. And just to clarify right now, we're not playing the other level 6 because the other level 6 doesn't even spawn a token, so it's bad. So Ecclesia here has an effect that allows you to special summon it if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, so nice and easy like a Pankratops or a Cyber Dragon. You can only do this once per turn, and then once per turn you could use each of the following effects. During the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon a Swordsoul or Fallen of Albaz from your hand or deck, and during the end phase, if a fusion monster Z was sent to your graveyard this turn, you could add this card from your graveyard to your hand. This is another really good card for breaking open boards as it lets you just special summon it. You don't commit your normal summon to anything, and in addition, being a spellcaster tuner means it can be used in a pinch whenever we don't have tokens on board. We don't quite know what the synergy with the Albaz stuff might be for this deck, but the option's on the table and that's always nice. Overall, it just acts as basically 3 extra copies of both the level 4s, so you absolutely need to run it. Just before we continue, I just want to remind you all that I stream on Twitch at least twice a week. That is twitch.tv/YozoiRanger. Additionally, I do a lot of deck testing and I do viewer duels as well on EDO Pro. So come on over because we're planning a giveaway soon. Don't want to miss that. Now then, moving on to our Tenyi lineup, we're playing 2 Ashuna, 2 Vishuddha, and 2 Adhara. So Ashuna, Vishuddha, and Adhara all share the same effect where if you control no effect monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you control a non-effect monster while it's in your hand or graveyard, they all get additional effects. Ashuna lets you special summon a Tenyi monster from your deck, however it locks you into worm-type monsters for the rest of the turn. Vishuddha lets you target and bounce a card from your opponent's side of the field to the hand, and Adhara lets you add back a banished worm monster to your hand. Just one thing to note with these effects, when you control one of the tokens, they are counted as non-effect monsters, so you could use their effects as long as you control a token, which does come up in quite a few situations. And we're also playing 9 hand traps in this deck. Right now, I'm just running 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and 3 Imperm. However, whatever the meta kind of shifts to, you can of course slot out your hand traps accordingly. These are not solid. You will even see in replays I'm running Gamma, I'm running Nibiru, I'm running other things. I spent a decent amount of time experimenting with hand traps for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro meta, as it were, but you know, these are what I found to be the most universal. And also, dropping Droll and Lockbird on a Drytron player makes them absolutely cry, and you know, that gives me a lot of joy as a person. So, thank you, Droll and Lockbird, you're very nice. Now then, getting into our spell and trap lineup, we're running 3 Swordsoul Dragon Sword Appears, which lets you add a Swordsoul monster from your deck to your hand, or if you control a Synchro monster, you could add 1 Worm monster instead, and then if this card is banished in general, you could target 1 Swordsoul or Worm monster you control, increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end of the turn. You can only use each effect once per turn, of course. So, I mean, this is consistency boosting that decks would kill for. It's amazing, it's great. And the level modulation seems a bit odd, however it does technically give us access to level 7 synchros. There's no real level 9s that are really worth it, and technically level 11 too if you really want to make Star Eater, but you don't want to make Star Eater in this deck, unfortunately. Then we're also playing 2 of the Grand Spiritual Peak. You could target 1 Swordsoul monster in your graveyard, or if you control a Synchro, a Worm monster instead, and special summon it. If this card is banished, it also gets the level modulation effect. So this is a nice card. It combos well with certain lines of play you have to do where you'll dump Taie or Moyi, whichever one you haven't used earlier in the turn, revive them, and then use their effect, and then you're able to get an extra synchro on board. I wouldn't run more than 2 personally. I find it a little cloggy even at times at 2, believe it or not, but you run Desires in this deck, spoiler alert, so you definitely don't want to just risk banishing the 1 copy you have in case you really need a clutch play. At worst, it's also a decent extender if you're going for certain lines of play that involve Shaman of the Tenyi. And for our Tenyi spell card, we're playing Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. You can send 1 Worm monster from your deck to the graveyard, then if you control a face-up non-effect monster, again this includes the tokens, you could add from your deck to your hand 1 Tenyi monster with a different name from the card sent. You can only activate once per turn, of course. So there's a lot of lines of play this card opens up, including using it when you have a token on board in order to dump a Tenyi, in order to gain a beneficial effect that'll help you in the current game state, or to just, you special summon a Tenyi from hand, go into the link 1 that's a non-effect monster, use this, dump Ashuna, grab the other Tenyi you need, special summon that Tenyi, use Ashuna's effect, get the other level, and then boom, you have a level 8 Synchro, and that is effectively a play starter because a level 8 Synchro is a search monster. So yeah, lots of things like that. Now then, because I know some people will ask, I chose not to play Heavenly Dragon Circle right now because right now at least there isn't enough imperm or spot negation like that going around. It's a hard neg 1, and honestly I absolutely despise opening that card. I just found it's just a hard neg 1. And so once this deck probably comes out, once a meta actually forms around it, I'm sure imperm, effect veiler, certain things like that will be more popular. And in that meta, I would run Heavenly Dragon Circle as a way to dodge that the targeting effect negation. But for now, I'm using Vessel because Vessel is just better in most situations. For our final spells, we're playing 3 Potted Desires because your level 10 Synchro gets boosted up by having banished cards, and it's also a good consistency card. You're not really playing any one-offs, besides the 2 limited cards here, of course, one of which is Called by the Grave, because Called by the Grave is good. And also it synergizes with your level 10 Synchro because it's a nice quick play. Finally, for our traps, we're playing 2 of the Swordsoul Sudden Shift. So target 1 Worm monster you control and 2 cards your opponent controls, destroy them. And if this card is banished, you can special special summon one Swordsoul token. And if you do, it has the same restrictions. You'd only use each effect once per turn. So this card is excellent. It's Icarus attack. It's better than Icarus attack because it doesn't send for cost. But yeah, no, you gotta just use this and control your opponent's board, and that way they can't actually go into their link monsters, their Xyz monsters, their own synchros, etc, etc. You generally want to actually dump one of these. That way it's a banished target for Taie and a few other monsters. That way you could get a token. That way you could pop it with your other sudden shift. It's a wonderful card. I really like it, and I feel 2 is perfectly fine. You don't tend to brick on it. You don't mind opening it up as long as you're going first. And finally, for our last spell and trap card, we have one Imperial Order. Yeah, you're probably wondering why I'm playing Imperial Order with so many spells. It's because I found it better on turn 1 than Harpy's Feather Duster, and I really wanted to play kind of a power one-off. And you know what? I figured, why not go for the card that shuts down like half a deck's card pool and also makes a Sky Striker player absolutely livid. So yeah. Now then, to just quickly shotgun through the extra deck, the stuff that is already out and existing in the TCG, we got one Yazi Evil of the Yangzing, one Baxia Brightness of the Yangzing, one Psyframe Lord Omega, one Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, one Ruddy Rose Dragon, 2 Monk of the Tenyi, 2 is important, 1 Shaman of the Tenyi, and then we have a flex spot, which is either Dawn Dragster if you want another level 7 negate, or you could also use Underworld Goddess of the Closed World in order to just deal with big problematic monsters, aka this piece of garbage right here. Now then, to cover the OCG only cards right now. So first up for our Swordsoul Synchros, we have Qi Zhao, the Grand Swordmaster. This requires 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner worm monster. If this card is synchro summoned, you could add 1 card to your hand or banish a Swordsoul card from your deck. Quick effect, you could banish a Swordsoul card or a worm monster from your hand or graveyard, then target 1 other effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. You can only use a single effect of it once per turn. Finally, we have Xiangjian, the Swordsoul Grand Duke. This card gains 100 attack and defense for each banished card, and monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each banished card. If this card would be destroyed by card effect, you could banish 1 card from your graveyard instead, and if a card is banished, you could banish 1 card from your opponent's field and graveyard. You could only use this effect once per turn. So yeah, this is an absolute unit of a card. He could get to massive heights if you have a bit of a game that drags out and you're able to resolve, say, 2 Potted Desires. It's an excellent card. I absolutely love its effect to basically act as a pseudo Trishula, and honestly, it's super easy to make thanks to Long Yuan. Additionally, it has some good synergy with Sudden Shift, because you could target your opponent's 2 cards, and then when those cards would be destroyed, you just banish a card instead for this guy's protection effect. Then this guy's effect procs, you're able to banish another card on your opponent's field and a card from their graveyard to prevent floating. It's so good. I really do honestly love this guy. One of my favorite synchros ever made, I think. It's also completely generic, fun fact. Last but not least, we have Baroness de Fleur. Once per turn, you could target 1 card on the field, destroy it. And once, while face up on the field, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn during the standby phase, you could target 1 level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon this monster. So, Baroness is, honest to God, amazing. It basically fixed the biggest problem of this deck, which was being super prone to Nibiru. The fact that it's an Omni Negate that either your opponent has to burn 2 hand traps in order to, say, play around it, or you could just, of course, negate the Nibiru if they try to use it. The other thing is, it's great for board breaking because it does pop a card, does help have that Omni Negate just to prevent floating or things like that. And yeah, it's super fun. Additionally, you actually do use that tag out effect quite often because you'll return to the extra deck, special summon back Moi, reveal a card, and then you'll be able to go into another level 8. Now then, if you made it this far, I want to once again say thank you. However, I also want you to say Taco Tuesday in the comment section below. Now then, we're just going to get into some replays. These are just going to be unrecorded, undubbed, like over replays, just so you get a feel of how the deck plays, playing through things like Nibiru, playing against actual meta decks like Prank Kids, Drytron, a few others here or there. And yeah, just, feel it out, see if you're liking it, and if you have any questions, maybe I'll do a follow-up. So let's get into those replays. Think I can make it? Oh my god, I freaking can. Let's go. Oh my god, 8100. Jesus! Look at this boy, this absolute unit. Oh lord. Jesus Christ. Aha. That's and do that anyways.